Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a great day. Right now, we are seeing a pullback in the market after hours with the NASDAQ 100 futures actually sliding after Google and Microsoft have released their earnings. We see right now Google, specifically Alphabet, with their release down about 5.75% in the after hours. We're going to be getting into this, and also lots of eyeballs will be looking at Wednesday, which is tomorrow, on the Fed's rate decision that will be on the front mind for traders, talking about and pricing in the possibility of leaving rates where they are and what those March interest rate expectations will be, and the pricing in on that. On top of that, we have PLTR right now that's trading at about 1650 after hours, a little bit of a pullback here. We're going to be talking about this and why this increased volatility could be great for investors looking to possibly get into the long term, especially with PLTR that's going to be releasing their earnings in just less than a week here now, February 5th, post-market. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Always do your own research out there in the world. Now, what we see with PLTR, let's quickly recap the big article that we're seeing with the sliding of the after hours market right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the market open. What we saw is actually Google and Microsoft, they actually managed to beat both the top and the bottom lines of their expectations. However, what we are seeing is ad revenue for Alphabet coming short of analyst expectations. Could this pullback be more related to a buy the rumor and sell the news type of scenario? And what this is just a lot of anticipation for people looking at future events for some of these big tech companies, buying in, and once reality sets in, trying to pick the top, trying to sell at the top. Even though you're getting better than expected results, people might want to take the money and run. And on top of that, right now, there's a 98% probability that the central bank will leave rates unchanged. However, what's more important, what's going to be specifically looking at the top, is the chance that we will see what the Fed is going to do and what the actual changing of the federal funds rate will be, however, coming with the March odds. That is going to have a larger impact on the market, in my opinion. Zooming in here on Palantir, what we see is a close at 1674, right now trading at 1652. What's great about Palantir is that there was actually a good amount of consolidation and support that has been built into this $16 level. Historically, we haven't seen Palantir set a lot of consolidation in this zone. If we look and zoom out, Palantir likes to typically consolidate, that we have seen in the past, between the 13s and the 15s. If we see a large pullback, any type of bearish news that could continue, this could possibly be great entry points for those long-term investors that don't really care what the short-term price is right now. And this is in continuation of some bearish articles that are being released with a new sell recommendation for this stock, as you have this William Blair analyst right here that is maintaining a sell rating on Palantir. So what we're seeing across the actual media outlooks are some bearish potentials and kind of a bearish situational atmosphere that is being pushed in the market right now. If we continue on looking at Palantir in the actual options market, we do see some puts that are starting to pile here with that $15.5 strike price. Interesting strike price right here, down about $1 at about 10,000 in terms of actually the volume. But however, on the flip side, 1750 at the actual 1750 strike price, 20,000 on that volume in terms of call options coming in right here. This could be anticipation of the actual earnings for Palantir that is set to release February 5th post-market. Earnings per share predictions are at 8 cents, revenue at $603 million. If we see this expectations and if we see a reversal being triggered here in the market, in Palantir specifically, we could see the reassumption and the actual reobtaining of the $17 level support level. You see right here is multiple touch points at the 17s, which could allow for pushing up here into the $20 resistance zones. Last quarter earnings, Palantir was able to push from the 14s up to setting a year-to-date high for 2023 at 2185. Continuing on here, as we said, like I said, we've seen some bearish sentiment across the market. However, that does not change Kathy Wood's mind about one of the most incredible artificial intelligence growth stocks to get in, and talking about a smart move on Palantir as she is continuing to invest in this disruptive technology. One thing that we have noted is while the S&P 500 has continued to be on a hot streak this year, we've seen this with some of the big tech stocks, even just looking at NVIDIA specifically, breaking out over the 600s. Palantir has yet not followed this, especially with these recent downgrade from the Wall Street analysts. However, With that being said, what we're seeing with Palantir is not a lot of negative changes within the company themselves. The business is actually thriving. We've seen this with the AIP rollout, and looking at last quarter metrics, I love sharing this graphic with you, just these two simple bar charts right here, that the commercial revenue growth has increased 23% year over year, and you also have the government revenue growth that is continuing to increase. So on both sides, we're seeing commercial and governmental growth. Talking about that, one of the biggest criticisms for Palantir is its valuation. However, look at its valuation compared to a lot of the other AI stocks right now. A lot of them are trading at a high valuation. Palantir is not an outlier when being compared to some of the other AI services, some of these other tech stocks, looking at their actual price to sales ratio, like Snowflake. Now, on top of that, what we do see with PLTR is the potential for accumulation before Palantir gets into those mid-20s, before we see those growth metrics that do start to continue. And this leads into the actual projected growth. We talked about it, if you looked at yesterday's video, the actual expansion over the next decade on what is predicted for revenue coming into Palantir. We have to see and acknowledge that the AIP rollout for PLTR is relatively new. This is going to be captured over many future quarter earnings on how AIP is doing successfully, with Palantir really diving into that commercial sector. And of course, as we talk about Palantir, this lofty valuation could mean volatility ahead. However, as I mentioned right here, could we see a long-term path for investors to take advantage of the current volatility? On top of that, you also have the S&P 500 inclusion is near in 2024. As we talked about that, they've hit that fourth quarter of GAAP profitability, and Investor Place here says that long-term holders could be rewarded handsomely depending on what happens with the stock. If you give a valuation for what you think Palantir should be worth in your own mind, then that should give you an idea. Do you think you're overpaying for the stock right now, or do you think that you're getting a deal on the stock right now? In terms of the actual valuations, I think a lot of people are putting a lot of criticism behind that specific number, what we're seeing with the price to sales ratio. However, we do need to acknowledge that, but one important thing is that a valuation is really a gauge, or what I've seen before, a barometer of how Wall Street and future investors are predicting its future revenue quarter reports to actually play out. What they're expecting is Palantir to continue in terms of growth and revenue. So having a higher valuation, this shows you that a lot of people are bullish on Palantir's future, willing to pay a higher price for it right now in anticipation that the actual valuation of the company will continue to grow. However, with this comes risk, speculation, of course, and this is an AI stock. We do have to acknowledge the actual influx of buying pressure and momentum that we have seen in AI. Is this here to stay? I don't know. Or is it another dot-com bubble? That is the risk that's behind that, and risk assessment is really important in more speculative stocks. Other than that, that's all what I have for you guys. What do you think is going to be happening over the next week? Do you think we're going to see a little bit of a pullback right here? Or do you think the actual earnings expectations is going to allow Palantir to ignore this reversal and test that 20s in the near future? Peace out. Have a great day.